Good evening and welcome to We the People. The crisis in Air India has deepened. Today, the Air India management has sent a text message to all striking pilots saying that their strike is criminal and it is threatening the survival of the airline. And that's what we're discussing on the program tonight. How did the airline of the Maharaja go from being an iconic airline and an iconic brand name to a right royal mess? There are larger questions as well. There are people talking about the need to privatize Air India and privatize it now. And there's a deeper philosophical question for us as a country. Do we even need a national carrier? There are those who say that Air India is always abused, but also the first one to be used during times of national crisis. So has it just become fashionable to trash the airline? Is it poor management that's the problem? Or have national carriers, by their very nature, become anachronistic for a globalized world? Let me start with our panel. Let me start before we come to the aviation experts to actually two men who deal with the business of branding and imaging. And I want to actually start with Ivan Arthur, if I may, because, you know, we remember when the campaign to create the Maharaja, we remember that from a few decades ago, and that's why I said it's gone from being the Maharaja to a right royal mess. And do you still believe that Air India as a brand works? As somebody who was involved in that original old campaign to create this as the airline of the Maharaja?
You know, I believe, and I think I'm not wrong in saying that most people believe, that Air India is one of our unique and most distinctive brands.
Even today?
Even today, because brands remain brands. They are the soul of the product. The product may disintegrate. Right now,
brand survives, the brand outlives the product.
Right, the brand outlives the product. What I see today is an airline that has lost its memory. It has forgotten what its branding is. And I think if you're talking about branding, I think that's where the problem is. Here was a great brand, I think a distinctive brand with a unique DNA. And if you look at that DNA, the double helix was exotica and geniality. And both of these this double helix manifested itself through the Maharaja and the behavior of the airline. It did advertising which was totally different. In fact, it didn't do advertising. I think it was Air India that introduced or invented non-advertising as advertising. And I think that, you know, that wonderful past is now covered over with what is happening today.
But I find it interesting that you say that the brand can still live on, that the brand has outsurvived the product. And Prahlad, you were amused. Why?
Because I think Air India today has become a national embarrassment. And most Indians today want to duck when they hear the name or have to fly the airline. Frankly, I'm one of them. I stopped flying Air India 15 years ago because of an experience I had on Air India. And not only when I wrote the letter saying that I'm ashamed of you guys as a management and as the rot has really set in, I said not only will I not fly you, but I will not work for you. Because I used to do a lot of films for Air India and through Ivan thing. And I stopped working for them completely. I was that embarrassed. And every time I now look at it, and every time I see the deterioration, and I ask myself this question, and this is the question that we're going to be asking our audience today. It says, does the government have any business to be in business when they're not competent? When they cannot run a government, how can they run a state-of-the-art airline with people's lives depend?
I can hear whoops of you're right, and I don't know if that's general cynicism or you've touched a chord, but as a natural extension of what you're saying,
yes,
it would follow that you don't even believe that India needs a national carrier, or do you believe India doesn't need this national carrier?
I think India needs an icon. I think India needs somebody else other than Sachin Tendulkar. You know, and the only possibility that this country had of looking up at something was Air India. And I think we can still revive it if the government gets out of the airline.
NDTV's cricket app, Android and iPhone. Fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.